It was another good day in the neighborhood, Larry.
I guess so. Yeah.
Tesla recovered almost all of the losses from yesterday, which went down almost exactly the same amount as the day before. Had it gone up, I'm sorry, it went up 17,
It went
whatever,
up
then down
uh,
17, and then
like a
back up
seesaw.
17,
Yeah, like a
like a
seesaw.
seesaw. It's really been a lot of fun. So we're now back at 440, which I've been talking about for 2 weeks as being a really hard number to get through until next Thursday when we get the numbers. And then, but we've had, I don't know, no, I think it's 10. I read this morning. It's 10 increases in the price target. I think no decreases. 10 increases, no decreases in the price target.
Yeah, in theory, the stock should run now if we get constant news relating to the Robotaxi rollout.
Right.
If we get an upgrade to version 14
Mm-hmm.
as predicted next week, if we
Mm-hmm.
get a 14.2 by November, if we get the first, and I don't think it'll be by the end of the year, but I think early in the next year we'll get the first unassisted ride or unsupervised ride.
Mm-hmm.
I, I think we could see bumps in the road. I think we'll have trace backs of 20, 30 in that order. But I'm very, very, very focused on next year, and I think next year is going to be a breakout year. I hope people don't go into margin territory in order to invest in the stock. I think you have to be awfully cautious. You have to, understand your own position and so on. So please don't take this as investment advice. When I tell you not to get into
Lifetime,
margin, please
lifetime.
take that as an investment
It's
advice.
life experience advice. Yeah, if people want to leverage, I think is way smarter to leverage with leaps than it is to leverage with margins.
Well, you're certainly not going to lose, in terms of the percentage you could lose. Well, let me rephrase that. You can lose 100% of what you invest.
Right.
The good thing is that whatever you invest in leaps, you have in your pocket, you put it in, you face the reality that you could go to zero.
Every day.
With margin, you can go to a negative number, and that negative number could end up taking money out of your house, out of your savings, out of and so that's the reason that we suggest leaps if you want to lever up.
Mhm, mhm.
But here's the problem with leaps, Randy. Leaps require real understanding of what you're buying and what the period of your leaps is, what the current rate of it, just a lot of technical factors that the average person doesn't understand,
Right.
and they kind of guess at period. They guess at what price leap to buy, what strike price
Mhm.
leap to buy, and those kind of guesses can really cost you money, a great deal of money. So, if you're going to buy leaps, maybe, I don't know, maybe you need to seek advice. Maybe you need to do some training. Maybe you need to do some reading.
Yeah,
I,
people can go back into my YouTube channel and do a search for leaps. And I've done two different shows on leaps in detail. I made a massive amount of money in 2021 on leaps. Now they say, Larry, that everybody's a genius in a bull market, but I mean, it was 33x. In 1 year. I think that was a little bit more than just a normal genius move for 1 year. But I do go into the details of my understanding of leaps. And believe me, even I believe I will say without question, I do not trade them in a sophisticated way. And you can become super sophisticated about how you do leaps, but that's not my style.
yeah, good, good. Well, I think, that's the kind of thing people should do before they buy leaps, is they should do studies. And if you've done that, I think that That's a good start. That's really an excellent start. So I highly recommend people be very cautious. People take advice. People read up and learn. And there's nothing better to learn than experience. And so, you go into it with certainty that you're a genius and you're going to make a fortune. Of course, you're not a genius and you don't make a fortune very often. You lose a lot of money first, but that's the experience you need to take.
Yeah,
This is
Mhm.
sorry, I just wanted to say this is very, very high conviction investing. But the problem is it's very high risk from a timing perspective. And so everybody should be aware that from a timing perspective, they face a lot of risk. And so just final word on leaps. Let's assume you buy, I'll just pick a number, $10,000 worth of leaps for a strike price out in 2027, because you feel that by 2027, you're fairly sure that Tesla's strategy will have come to fruition. And you buy a leap at, I don't know, $500, $560, in that order of price. You could see your investment go negative very, very quickly.
Yep.
You could see yourself be underwater by, the full amount of your investment, not the full amount, but
Yes.
a very high percentage of your investment. That's fine. That's a normal process in a leap situation. It's very difficult to time a leap, but it's much, much easier to have time in a leap. So that's all I'm saying, is that it could be that during a period of a leap, you could be underwater heavily. And so anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you hit it on the nose. It is a high conviction. When I start, every time I'm talking to anybody about leaps, you do leaps in stocks that you have a high conviction that they're going to do great, because that's why you want the leverage on the long side. But the fun part about leaps, or the not so fun part about leaps, is when you have leverage on the upside. Well, guess what? If the stock goes down, you got the same leverage going back down. So it is, and then the timing issue, Larry, as you point out, they stale date, or they become worth less every single day that you own them, because they're getting closer and closer to their expiration. So since they have this continuous, even if the stock is going up, the leap could be going down, because it's losing value every single day. Anyway, like you say, that's probably enough about leaps for one day. Let's leap into another subject. Another subject might be that the economy is on fire, Larry. Well, okay, it's really doing well. The people's spent almost 6% per year more this year than last. So I think 0.4%, or it was a 0.4 or 0.5. Anyway, I think maybe it was only 0.4%, compared to last month. So that's on an average 5% per year, while inflation is only at the very most at 3%. So that is people, meaning they're putting more money in their pocket or in their savings or someplace.
Yeah, it's all in the eye of the beholder, though, because I noticed a friend of mine posted today just how bad the Trump economy was, and quoted numbers to prove that, the Trump economy is in the toilet. Yeah, I think we're on track. I think we are running roughly to Scott Bessen's plan and to Trump's objectives. I think the time when we'll be able to really take stock is March, April next year, when we can see the trajectory of inflation and the trajectory of growth and the trajectory of the deficit.
Right.
I think that will be very helpful numbers, and I think by March we would have played out. In March, he would have been in power for 15 months. And I can tell you at the 16th month mark of his last administration, that's when the economy really just motored. So, if he's going to achieve the same, result, and by the way, we're on track today for where he was, at this point in his last administration. That's very interesting. There were different challenges there,
Sure.
I grant you, and in some respects, not as serious a challenge. But he's on track, and time will tell now, right?
So there's another thing happening next week, Larry, which is the end of the budget year, and the Democrats are threatening to shut down the government. So I thought, I had a pretty good idea in my head, but I thought, let me ask Grok, what happens to the stock market when the US government gets shut down? Do you have a recollection?
It's okay. I
It
mean,
does well. It
yeah,
does really well.
actually, there's a little bump the first 2 or 3 days. The market goes down, and then the market acts as if nothing happened.
And does quite well, actually. In fact,
Yeah,
the longer the government stays shut down, the better the market seems to do.
that's right. That's right. It's just the first week or so that the market shivers.
I did a poll yesterday, Larry. I asked people that follow me. I said, "Do you think that Trump should just ignore these idiots and let the government shut down?" I think it was,
Everyone said yes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I,
Yeah, yeah. The people, on Trump's side of the house are not that bothered by the government shutting down. I mean, the problem is the law courts don't shut down. They still, litigate against him.
yes, it's true. It's true. Well, another piece of the good news over the last week has been Elon and the president doing all kinds of things together. Another handshake, I guess, yesterday as they agreed to do this AI thing, XAI thing at the White House. What's your feelings about the newfound love between the romance being or bromance being rekindled?
It it had to happen. I mean, it was silly. I would say that the responsibility for the breakup rests very heavily on Elon's shoulders. I'm afraid to say, and I'm not afraid to say it, but I'm
Sad to say.
it's fair to, yeah. I mean, I think Elon really, he blew it. I think he's probably prepared to admit it himself
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
So I think it's important that he come back into the fold. I think it's very important that he help the government. I think Doge are doing great work, by the way. I know it's not coming out the way he
Right,
wanted it,
right.
but it's having a salutary effect on government in general, a
Mhm.
very salutary effect. It's changing how government views itself and its responsibilities. So, on balance, nothing better could have happened than these two make up. I feel very sad that it happened because of this terrible tragedy. I mean, it's a terrible tragedy. And anyway, I don't want
Yeah.
to get into that again. But anyway, it's happening, and that's a good thing. And I hope that it builds. I hope that they both find it in themselves to build on it.
Absolutely. So the president has had a very good week. He gave a UN speech that I thought was maybe the best speech I've ever heard him give. It was more organized. I just thought it was a great speech. And the liberals hated it. But his a- approval rating on Rasmussen popped to 57%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 50. That's the overnights. So it's only about 200 people polled. But yeah, popped to 57%.
That's amazing. I see the early voting in New Jersey is running very heavily in the Democratic favor. That's a bit of a bother.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the early voting is almost always in the Democratic favor. I think the
This
recent
is
polls are showing it's about 50-50, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I saw something more like 70-30 in
Oh, I
the
meant the polling, not
oh,
the
the polling. Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw the polling, but the early voting is not good, looking good.
yeah.
And unless they've got a really good ground game, the Democrats' ground game can generate a lot of votes, and I mean generate, I mean
Yeah. Okay. Um, we have the FSD 14. You mentioned that a few minutes ago. So we've got 14.0, 14.1, and 14.2. Now I'm going to let you play jump ball. I shouldn't tell you who said which, but one of my experts said that 14.1, 14. All three are already being tested by employees. They're
yeah,
all three done. And it's
yeah.
just a matter now of polishing them over the next weeks. But another one of my experts said that 14.0 is done and it will come out next week. Then 14.1 is almost done, not quite done. And 14.2 is not, they haven't started the final training yet. So which one of those do you think is true, or does anybody know?
Nobody knows. Everybody's guessing. I would be very surprised if 14.0 were not done and were not being tested by employees. I'm not saying that I know it is. I'm just saying I would be very surprised if it were not. Simply, Randy, that, you don't say you're going to release something next week unless you actually completed the testing and are doing the final packaging and, the all the I wouldn't call them regulatory requirements, but all the due diligence requirements on the package. I mean, you don't release the day it's done. You release, depending on the extent of the work to be done, but there's all kinds of due diligence things that have to be ticked off.
Right.
And some of them require quite a lot of a lot of actual work.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be all kinds of security testing, the build testing to ensure. I mean, I can't relate to what their testing would need to be, but there's a huge amount of it, not the least of which is making sure that the package is going to download and upload properly, that it's going to install properly in all the myriad of of technology variants out there. Even if they say, oh, it's only going to be for AI4, well, there are many different variants out there in terms of AI4 and different models of cars and so on. So, and I'm not talking about testing them in the driving. I'm saying testing the install.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even count all the things that have to be done once they've packaged the release to ensure that it's a smooth rollout. So they probably started rolling out. They probably started rolling out already a week or two or three ago to levels of employees, and then they'll start rolling out to the field,
Mm-hmm.
which is to say key testers and so on. We saw some activity in Florida, outside was it Chaz, the guys who does the testing, the unprotected left turn.
Oh yeah, but Chuck Schmidt, Chuck
Cook. Yeah, we saw some of that stuff being tested. So that was probably a release candidate being tested.
Mm-hmm.
So 14.0, in my guesstimate is that it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Now 14.1, 14.2 is probably in the whole test cycle within the lab and the lab, testers. Those two releases probably speak to some variants, probably the Cybertruck, probably one or two other variants where there may be some issues, and they may be dealing with some specific drive issues that they've experienced in the Robotaxi testing.
Mm-hmm.
Because think they've been running 14.0 in the Robotaxi testing for some time as part of the testing rollout. That would be my guess anyway.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, so it gives you a sense of how it's going to roll out, maybe over 3 months or so.
So Elon says that it's going to be prescient. It's going to be like human-like. I think.
I think version 3.2. So whatever it is, I'm writing is bloody prescient right now. Oh my word! I mean, it. I think to myself, well, it really needs to do this, and probably won't. Oh, it did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
Well, I'm in the same boat and I'm still in hardware 3. So, Larry, that leads to my question. My question is, what do you think? How do you think we'll know? What will be some things that you don't have now that you think that will change when the 14.2 is in your car?
Sign reading, I think, is quite a big deal. Sign reading is a big deal, and I don't think 14.2 is going to have it, but I think they should. Flashing lights is a bigger deal. I think school zone. So reading signs, mostly school zone signs, I think the biggest issue. There are not a lot of things left. The most complex thing I've experienced is lanes. Every bloody town has got a different lane protocol and lane, structure. And so that's always a pain, big pain.
All right. Just a little while ago, I saw the first portion of BG2 this week, or B2G rather. And Jensen Huang is on. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you've already seen it. All right. So I don't know if you can muster your analysis real quick here for us, because I've only seen like the first 20 minutes.
I think the most powerful part of his discussion is on the issue of the growth rate and these curves that we're seeing, and he's talking about not one, not two, but 3 growth curves, one piling on top of the other. There's pre-training, there's training, and then there's inference, and each of them are growing at exponential rates. So you've got an exponential curve on top of with another exponential curve on top of that. And when they last spoke to Jensen Huang, I think he said this at the beginning of the conversation, they were scared about some sort of dip. This was about a year ago. And
in terms of the need for
need for hardware, and we blew through that. And now there's this sort of rumble of overinvestment, and Jensen putting 100 billion here and 100 billion there and 100 billion there, and he's just buying the business. Well, he dealt with that in short order. But when you think about these exponential curves and so on, and then one of the other things he said is kind of at odds with what I'm thinking. But he said that AI compute, or advanced computing as he calls it, is going to subsume all of the inference computing, being all of the generalized computing, the non-advanced computing, the conventional computing that's being done right now. And he kept on giving examples of of selection and optimizing search and so on and so forth. And then he touched upon enterprise scale transactional computing. And that's the area that I'm not sure a GPU is going to exceed the performance of a CPU. He says it is, and I have to take him at his word because he knows a little bit more than I do. I don't see it that way. I see CPU computing being ideal for, fetch, add, store.
Right.
Which is like 99% of transactional computing.
Right.
So I'm interested to see how that evolves. On the brainstorm this morning, I said that CPU computing is going to be with us for a very long time to come, because they were talking about all the value, all this compute that's already invested, that's in the ground, losing value. And I said, no, actually, we're going to see more compute, more transactional computing, because AI is going to enable much larger volumes of transactions to take place with the growth. And so it's an interesting case study. I am going to do some research to find out if Jensen is correct and if he can really do, what he calls advanced computing on transactions, and how that plays off against CPU processing, because I think the energy use must be, like 5x for the same transaction.
Right.
If I'm going to get a byte, transform it, store a byte, I think a GPU is going to burn a lot more energy than a CPU.
So, okay, so that's interesting. I need to think that one through too. We've both run bigger companies, and the computer was central to running that company. And so,
that what you use that computer for, and that is, storing orders, taking orders, tracking inventory, purchasing, tracking deliveries, all of that stuff. I think using GPUs to do that transactional stuff, which is 90% of corporate of conventional corporate activity. That's not true of like online sales, and it's not true of any AI agentic AI work, but it's certainly the heart of transactional compute. And I would think that it would be very wasteful of energy and cost to do that transaction on a GPU, but I could be wrong.
yeah.
Jensen has been known to be right before.
So as my initial analysis of how I think it would have impacted my company is that all that data that I was getting out, it used to come out on paper. Remember that, Larry? We used to get these.
Those days,
massive.
Now you're going back to the 80s. Yeah.
And you'd have computer paper shooting out of your printer.
Yeah, that's pre-80s.
Yes. And then you'd get this stack of paper, and this is your sales report, or this is your purchasing report, or this is your inventory report. And you would look at page 13 because there was something you wanted to check, and then it would go in a stack in the corner and you'd never look at it again.
Right.
That's the part where I think there's really a possibility.
Yeah, but you see,
not getting rid of the paper, the analysis of all of it.
I'm absolutely aligned. I'm absolutely aligned. All I'm trying to say is that what Jensen said,
so we'll get rid of the first part,
is that he's going to he's not going to get rid of it. He's going to replace standard computing, normal computing, with advanced computing. And, I'm trying to align with what he says. And all I'm saying is that to fetch a byte, a bit or a set of bytes, and to transform them, add, carry, and then store that or send that to storage. That is the heart and soul of transactional computing.
Right.
And that is like 90% of corporate computing, which is a very high percentage, if not 100% of commercial activity, of commercial computing. So I don't see that being replaced by advanced computing. And his argument was that it could be, and I think that's wrong. I think that CPUs are going to be with us for a while to come. And and he would not have invested in IBM if that weren't the case.
There you go. So
Not in IBM, I'm sorry, Intel.
Intel, yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so the one little thing I pulled out of the 20 minutes I've seen so far, I thought was super interesting. Right now, we've just written this book together. You and I and 7 of our best friends have this book coming out about the transition that's going to take place over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years into this world of AI. And most of the conversation that people are having around this is how many jobs is it going to replace? And you have a few people, some individuals who are saying not how many jobs it's going to replace, but rather it will be different jobs.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea, a good thought. But Jensen had yet another thought, and I hadn't really thought about it this way, although it's obvious. But he said, no, what's going to happen is your $100,000 a year employee is now going to have another employee sitting next to him that's going to cost you $5,000 or $10,000 a year of compute that is going to be able to duplicate the efforts of that $100,000 guy. So you're going to have $200,000 worth of capability for $110,000.
Right, but that's the level of productivity. That's how everybody's going to leverage their productivity. I mean, I know that I've used AI to do stuff that would have taken me weeks to do, and I've done it in hours.
Right.
I mean, that's a literal fact, weeks to hours.
Yeah.
So, I'm at my age to be able to do the kind of stuff that I'm able to do in terms of a daily grind is just remarkable.
Yeah.
So my value at my age is probably doubled compared to where I was 20 years ago. And I think it's showing in terms of my business output and my business results, which means that each one of us could become dramatically more productive. And economics teaches us that as we become more and more productive, so we generate more and more wealth, and that wealth, will become invested, and that wealth will employ people and ad infinitum. And it's been ad infinitum every century, every year since the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
So we've seen that machinery, just multiplies the capacity of the human being, and then that adds huge value to humanity, and that enriches us all, some more than others. And that's the rub. I mean, the fact is that some people earn quite a lot more than others, and that's a forever story.
All right. Well, Larry, let's take a quick look, just a quick analysis of what happened today. And so we have Tesla up, as we mentioned earlier, 4%, back up to 440 cents at the end of the day.
But it wasn't high. It wasn't on high volume, Randy.
It was not.
No, there were
100 million.
Yeah, so it's lower than the average.
Yeah, yeah.
You always want to see volume higher than the average when you're going up.
Let me ask you if you have this little theory, Larry. I have all these little theories, having day traded for a while, I ended up with all these little theories. If the stock is is going up generally, it's on the way up, and it hits a high like 444 the other day. Once it hits 444, my theory is that means it's worth 444 at least, and it will someday go through that number again. And the same thing on the downside. If the stock is trending down and it goes down to another recent low, that kind of tells me it can go there again. Now, that's not 100% of the time, but it's one of the little signals that I commonly used.
Yeah, I mean, it's establishing baselines, and that is psychologically a barrier to people who are on each side of the trade. So that's why that appears to be the case. Unfortunately, it's a random issue as to when it penetrates one way or the other,
Right.
those boundaries, and reestablishes new boundaries. And that's what's so exciting about trading,
That is what's so exciting.
and very dangerous about
It's a
trading.
young man's game. I mean, I was a lot younger in 1990. I'm sorry, 2021 than I am now.
Weren't we all? Weren't we all?
All right, let's see. So down a little bit, a tiny bit in the after hours, but the overall market kind of flattish, didn't really respond very much to the great news. I mean, across the board, PCE was amazing.
Yeah.
So many pieces of good news all week. And so all flat. Dow was up 0.65, NASDAQ up 0.44, S&P up 0.59. But Larry, the one that blew my mind, by the way,
I don't know what happened.
you know what happened? Go back or forward? No? No, that's it. There you go. Stay right there, Larry. Don't move.
I don't move.
The bond market, Larry. What are we going to do about the 10-year?
Well, you know, in theory, the interest rates should have gone down and they went up, and that's not a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's going to lead to higher mortgage rates.
Yeah, exactly. And higher cost of doing business in the local community.
Yeah, I was looking for mortgage rates to go down. I've got a house to sell.
Well, Larry, single-handedly, you could probably help the mortgage market. You need to go out there and start buying those bonds, man. You can buy those 10 years. You and all your friends.
That is, you know, that is a market that even countries can't impact. That's so large.
It's so large. It is like the second or third largest asset, right?
I think
Bonds?
U.S. Treasury bonds are the largest asset.
The largest asset. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I guess you could say U.S. real estate, but
yeah, I don't know. CERN has a chart on that, and I forget which one is which one is the highest.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of paper assets,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of securities, there's nothing
Yeah.
else that has a
Yeah.
broader market than that.
100%. Yeah, it's bigger than equities. Yeah. All right. And then gold, Larry, I didn't look yet. I didn't look at gold.
Best not to look at gold.
That's best not to look at gold. Let's see. We have gold up another 1870.
Oh my God.
37.89. I think it's been above 3,800 though. I don't think that's the.
Are we going to make 4,000?
It keeps looking like it. It keeps looking like it.
I got to fix this camera. Good.
And silver up another 2.77% at 46.36. 46.36. I mean, and it's gone up more than gold this year. Silver's been actually a better buy.
That's amazing.
We've got oil up a little bit. It's been a little, I guess there's a whole thing now with Russia. Actually, oh, I see. This is a better headline than this morning, because it was said that Russia was cutting back shipments. Well, it was because the Ukrainians, their drones hit some of their supply lines. So that's why oil's up a bit.
That may get worse too.
It might. There's another, I don't know if you saw this one yet, Larry. There was another, oh, darn it, another podcast. I think it was yesterday or the day before. This was Peter Diamandis' podcast, and they were talking about drone warfare. And this was with Schmidt, Eric Schmidt.
Eric Schmidt, yeah.
And Eric Schmidt's a really super knowledgeable in all this defense stuff. And he was saying he thinks drone warfare is going to be the end of warfare. That because
Please God.
he says because the drones are infinitely programmable with AI, no matter if you have 1 million drones and they've got 1 million drones, you don't know how the other side is going to reprogram or how the AI is going to reprogram the drones at any given time. So you don't even know how to strategize. So this could be a very different. He made it sound like the nuclear thing, where you end up with a standoff and there's no way to go forward, and that they've made all other wartime equipment uh, illogical. Tanks, warships.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Right now, Russia's beginning to discover that oil fields are very, very, very vulnerable,
Very vulnerable.
and things could change. Anyway,
All right. Well, I could ask you one last question. I don't know. Did you listen to Netanyahu today?
I did not. I did
Okay.
not.
Right.
I'll need to go back and visit it.
Maybe we can talk about that one on Monday then.
Yep.
All right, Senor, thank you so much as always for being on. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.